No?
Hello, sir. Hello.
Slide weather is changing now?
Yes, sir. It's changing, sir. It's changing, sir.
Okay, fine.
Uh, uh, Sir, can we wait for 5 more minutes, sir? Just 9:30.
Yeah, no problem. You tell me and the time will start, okay?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I will once again inform the all other participants also.
Yeah. You find out and let me know, okay?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Ravi sir, good morning, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Now only 39 participants are there. Rest can
Okay.
watch it in YouTube also. So shall we start, sir? It will be recorded in
Yeah.
YouTube
Yeah.
also.
Okay. 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 It will be recorded on YouTube also.
It's like now it's live streaming in YouTube, sir.
Okay. Okay.
So it's a time 9:30. We have told them.
Mm. No, I don't have any problem.
Okay, sir. ഒരു 5 മിനിറ്റ് വെയിറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ. So we will start, sir.
Okay.
Participants are joined, sir.
Fine. Fine.
Good morning, all. Welcome all to the third day of faculty development program. Today, the morning session is handled by a very renowned personality in the field of pharmacy. It's not to go any more introduction. Professor Dr. T.K. Ravi, sir, Principal and Head Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis, College of Pharmacy, Sri Ramakrishna Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Coimbatore. So Dr. T.K. Ravi has obtained his bachelor's degree, master's, and PhD degree in College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Manipur. And in his 33 years of experience as a teacher and researcher, he has around 41 international and more than 100 national publications in peer-reviewed journals. He has successfully guided 15 postgraduate theses, 16 doctoral theses, and presently guiding two doctoral research papers in the field of pharmaceutical chemistry and analysis. He was the convener of the Scientific Services Committee, Indian Pharmaceutical Association for a period of 3 years, 2013 to 2015. He has served as a member in several national and international professional bodies, which includes convener for Active Working Group, Pharmacy Council of India, New Delhi. He is a nominated member, associate, nominated member, Accreditation Council of Pharmaceutical Education, PCP USA, International Services Program Advisory Group. He was a member of Pharmacy Council of India from 2008 to 2013. He is also a nominator of a Council to Regulate Clinical Establishment in India, New Delhi. He was one of the board of directors Asian Association of School of Pharmacy. He was also served as an advisory member to develop pharmacy curriculum at Peldania University, Sri Lanka. He was the Board of Studies member and research board member of many Indian universities. Board of Studies member of Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University from currently is the Board of Studies. He has been elected 3 times as a governing council member and also as the president, faculty of pharmacy, senate member and chairman, board of studies research and chairman, board of studies, EPAM, MPharm, and PharmD. He is currently member, faculty of pharmacy, University of Health Sciences, Kerala branch, 2016. He is a recipient of several prestigious awards and fellowships, which include Distinguished Alumni Award, College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Manipal, for the year 2000, Fellowship Award of Association of Biotechnology and Pharmacy in 2009 at Bangalore, IPA Fellow Award in 2010 at Chennai. He was also awarded the Best of the year 2015 by Indian Pharmaceutical Association. He was also a recipient of Certificate of Merit of FPT Sethi Award of Best Research Papers published in 2008 and 2010. He is a life member of many professional bodies like IPA, IPGA, and APT. And it's a reviewer of different journals like Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Education, etc. Respected sir, we are honored to be here as a speaker for this FDP. So I'm welcoming you once again for this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Right? Hello.
Yes, sir.
You're audible. I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Okay, fine. So thank you for giving a very nice introduction. And it is my proud privilege to be with you all on this early morning, part of this staff development program. And it's my hearty congratulations for the organizing institution for conducting this program, especially during the COVID situation. And I think most of us are, most of the states or most of the institutions are conducting programs online. And it's very important for us to make sure that even though we are not able to go with the regular educational system, which used to have an impact on the students and also to the teaching community at large in the institution, majority of the pharmacy teachers, they've jumped into the new shoe so quickly, adopted the technology, and this has benefited majority of the student as well as teaching community at large. When we talk about, I mean, today they have given me a talk on quality education, pharma education, especially I'll be touching a little on practice education as well as for the pharma education. And it's really a testing time for all of us. A disruptive time where the regular things are not happening, and teachers have to use this particular duration of disruptiveness to their side. They have to learn, they have to make sure that the teaching learning process goes properly in the institution as well as in the online mode and educate themselves. And again, the learning spree should not be disrupted. Nearly 1.5 years we have been doing this with the help of council, university, the government of India, government of the state governments.
Good morning.
So everywhere, everyone is concerned about the health of our students and teachers. So it is very important for us to make sure that this particular talk will try to give them an edge to find out where and all. I think somebody mutes, I think.
तो
I think
डायरेक्ट लोग निकल गई तो
organizers
वो भी
can
निकालेंगे
request.
तो 10-15 दिन में निकाल देंगे ऐसा है हाँ वो मैं डाल दूंगा वो मैं ऐसे डाला था कि
Hello, all participants. Yes, participants, request you to
Yeah,
mute
please,
yourself.
yeah. Yeah, it is disturbing. So thank you for muting.
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
No problem. So now let us see the importance, because this is a time where we learn. the quality assurance in pharmacy education, especially the practice education, in addition to the so-called the big umbrella of pharma education, strategies to strengthen. And it's the right time for us to think beyond the scope of our educational system and where we are going to lead. We never expected this kind of situation will arise. A couple of years back, we never thought it will be all smooth sailing sea, but all of a sudden, the whole thing has changed. The situation has changed. So let us see some of the important aspects where the teachers and the policymakers have to look into it, and how the process of quality is maintained in these institutions, in all the pharmacy educational institutions. Education is just not filling of bucket, as per William Butler. It is very rightly said. It is lighting a fire. And today we are at this juncture where it is very essentially, cautiously, we may have to do this. Because remotely students are available, and it's very important for us to take care of their health conditions, their mental condition, socio-economic conditions. But what are the advantage about the pharma group we have, pharma industry? India is having the largest US FDA approved facilities outside USA. And India is the fourth largest manufacturer of pharmaceuticals in the global market. In value, India is the 14th globally producing the medicines. And US dollars, if you say somewhere around 18.2 billion, these are all the statistics which we get. Indian pharmaceutical industry, domestic market and export is around 17.2 billion in the year 2018, and it's going with around 9% at that time. And now it's a kind of, in fact, we have been the hub of global pharma industry. Top 10 pharmaceutical companies in India, more than 50% of their annual turnover comes from exports. These are all some of the statistical report about the financial outcome of our country, and especially from the pharma market. And this, in fact, is going to be doubled in the years to come. As the fastest growing industry sector in the country, turnover will be doubled by 2025. More than 25,000 registered pharma manufacturing units. 250 companies hold more than 70% of the market share. Over 1 lakh drug formulations. So these are all our strength, I should say, the current status. And the McKinsey report says that we are slowly marching towards the top level in the pharma manufacturing units. We are moving from the last 6th position, and now we are going, our sales have increased, and we are increasing, we are shown as a pharmaceutical hub, especially in the part of this area. And we are competing with all the developed nations. And these are some of the areas where how the clinical pharmacy got developed after the thalidomide disaster. And why I just want to show all these things, because how the pharmacy education evolved from a mere selling pharma, drug selling person to a clinical pharmacist, and how the development of manufacturing has started, and manufacturing, how we are trying to improve ourselves. So this is sulfanilamide disaster which happened somewhere in the year 1937, and that is one of the key points where the safety has to be taken care of in the case of pharmaceutical products. And clinical research in India, if you look into it, global clinical research is exploring in India. The clinical research industry is also growing rapidly from 0.2 billion to rupees 1 billion in the last 3 years. These are all some of the information which I thought I'll just share, where how the development has taken place in the pharma field. After the thalidomide disaster in 1961, how the WHO has made the importance of drug and drug monitoring and the clinical research, and how the patients from the drug use when they come for a disease. British government 1978, they realized, and they got the Uppsala Monitoring Center. It's a collaborating center to know about the adverse drug events and adverse drug reactions of various drugs which are for human and veterinary use. An Indian pharma advantage, we have a population of around 1.36 billion now approximately. Number of registered pharmacists around 8 lakh. And we have highly skilled, motivated scientists and proven expertise in process of chemistry and pharmaceutical sciences, growing experience with US FDA and other international regulatory compliance. So for the last 70 years, if you see, especially for the last 3 to 4 decades, there's a tremendous growth in pharmaceutical industry sector, as well as in the associated clinical research, clinical organizations. And in fact, the amount of drug which is getting utilized in the hospital industry, everywhere there is a tremendous increase. And this will certainly require more and more pharmaceutical professionals or pharma professionals with high quality. The advantage still continues. High quality manufacturing facilities we have. We have the highest number of US FDA approved plan in India. The recruitment of patients and conducting clinical trials is quite high. Cost of conducting clinical trial is 40 to 60% less in the developed market. And strong IT skills. That's again, today we have artificial intelligence and other mechanical learning part, computer engineering, all those things are developing, and they are all got application in the clinical data management. And the discovery process, it's a kind of, it is, if you just look into the process of developing a drug, Indian pharma companies also now, they are increasing the amount of finance or the amount required for the research on par with global counterparts. So more and more they have realized, I think this particular decade, you will see the Indian pharmaceutical companies will go more into clinical research. And they are going to see more and more amount of drug discovery process is going to happen. Drug discovery, the collaborative effort of many companies along with educational institutions is going to happen. R&D development is going to be on the peak. So these are all the changes which we are going to see in the drug discovery and development process. As a process it shows, there's a lot of studies going on, and you see development in regulatory affairs, clinical research, discovery, target monitoring, lead search, lead identification. So we are into the computational models and how quickly we can try to get the drugs, especially in the drug discovery process. As it stands, the discovery process is a very tedious one, and this picture shows how well the drug discovery is being done after target identification. Then you have the lead identification, then lead optimization, then you have the drug has to be identified for animal experimentation, preclinical development, then you have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. And the clinical trial market is again, it is growing, and it's around US $467 million. And this process also will be taken up. So that's this particular background. So I've been highlighting about the pharma industrial growth in India, drug discovery process, how Indian pharma companies are going to take up. And in addition to the pharmaceutical sector, which governs the production, quality control, bulk drug production, and drug regulatory, and many other fields, again, drug excipient monitoring, pharmacovigilance in industry. In addition to that, in the hospital sector, we are going to have the practicing pharmacists in hospital, community pharmacy, clinical pharmacists. So for the last one to two decades, this change is seen in pharma sector. And globally, we are marching ahead. The level of involvement in the pharmacy professional and pharmaceutical education should play a very important role because the field is developing very fast. We are on par with any of the developed countries. So naturally, we have to be very clear, or we have to monitor our education system, because the educational hub, the pharma educational hub so called, we try to make sure that these stakeholders in various fields of pharmacy needs manpower, human resource. And if you just look into the pharmacy education, we have pharmaceutical sciences and practice, and we have to cater the professionals to the industry and industry related areas of the field, and hospital related areas of the field. So we have got two important aspects where the professionals have to be focused or developed, which requires as I was just telling you, this slide shows that how the pharmaceutical sector has developed in 1980s, 11 universities and 26 colleges. And today, by 2018 and more, we have around 1,439 institutions. And that number is increasing for the last 3-4 years. Even it is touching more than around 2,500 as per the council's report. And we have more number of diploma units. PharmD colleges have come into play. And this was not there in 2 or 3 decades before. So as per the requirement of the industry or hospital or community, the number of institutions have also grown. The number of students coming out of these institutions have also grown. But again, what is very important today is how well the quality is maintained in these sectors. Sectors in the sense, in the educational units, the educational institutions, how whether we are able to do it. So pharmacy education as a role, if you just start looking into it, we have to cater many areas, especially in community pharmacy or hospital or in clinical toxicological area. So these are all some of the areas which are not touched for the last so many years in a high level requirement. So we do have community pharmacy, we do have hospital pharmacy. But again, the services in these sectors have to be improvised. The community pharmacy or hospital pharmacy, merely they cannot stay with the kind of drug selling units. Beyond that, we have to do the service. I'm sure Pharmacy Council of India is taking a right step to bring more and more changes in even in the diploma level and to degree level. The modifications are happening, and I'm sure in the years to come, we will have a quality check on the educational standards of the institution as well as the outcome of the students who are coming out as a professionals. The pharmacy education, we have these are some of the pharmacists who are trained in these areas. And if you just look into the changeover from 2008 onwards in the pharmacy practice area, the kind of development has taken place in pharmacotherapeutics. More importance they have started giving, and we have a clinical pharmacy is more importance is given to convert the education changeover from bench to practice site, because this was not taken into consideration for the last 4-5 decades. But now the importance is being given for these areas where the requirement is also quite high, the expertise also to be on a higher level. So PharmD education has come into India, and the key components of the education like pharmacy education in the B.Pharm level or M.Pharm level, the component which are focused in the case of a pharmacy, which caters the industry, where you have got around 40% of pharmaceutical sciences, 25% of areas of pharmacy practice, and you've got integration activities, pre-professional activities. But overall, if you just start looking into it, in the case of B Farm level, we have pharmaceutical sciences more. So the accreditation is one process which says that how well an institution or a student coming out of an institution is well trained. So if you just look into the quality purpose, and if you are very clear that an education institution providing or producing or training the students for the purpose of uh, professional skill or human resource to work in the industry or a hospital, they have to be very clear. The switchover from B Farm to Farm D takes place with more amount of practice science. In the case of pharmaceutical sciences have been reduced and practice science has increased, or practicing professional pharmacy practice components have been increased. So we have to be very clear, because the professional expectations by the community or by the public is also increasing day by day. They always feel that now they become a vital member of a healthcare team, valuable member of a society, and they should possess top quality scientific and professional skills, and capable of making decision making responsibility should be high. They should communicate with the public, and they must be a good educator, manager, leader with unquestionable sense of ethics. This is another area where the students have to be trained, as well as the institutions have to have the vision, mission statement. The ethics component has to be incorporated, because the expectations are quite high. It is because the number is more, the number of students coming out of an institution is high. So it is essential for us to inculcate the behavior, so that wherever they work, the ethical principles should be kept on a higher note. And if you just look into the pillars of quality, how well they have to look into it, the pharmacy policymakers, and pharmacy education, the pillars are mainly on the structure of the institution, the process, how well the training component takes place, what is the level of outcome it produces, and they must have the two last ones. One is accountability for the students or the members coming out of the institution, let it be an undergraduate or a postgraduate or an institution which offers PharmD or even PhD, whether they are prepared to face the challenges when they go into their higher education or into the field of pharmacy, and to occupy the positions where the ethical principles should be very high, because the challenges are more, the ethical principles. So today we have been seeing that COVID-19, how quickly people have responded. The pharmaceutical industry has responded for coming out with the vaccine. And if you just look into the entire area of preparedness, within a year, we are able to come out with a vaccine, and our public is getting benefited. The entire COVID-19 time for the last 1.5 years, how well the community pharmacy and the hospital pharmacy functioned in providing the cost-effective, high-efficient drugs to the public. So where they have come very close to the expectation of our people as well as the governmental organization. They all worked. It is because of the quality students who have come out, professionals who have come out from education institutions. They worked and they have provided the needed support to the our nation's preparedness for facing this situation of COVID-19. So for that, it is essential to have quality members who can come out of the institution, and because that's the area where we mold them. And when this particular molding is not happening properly, then they will become a misfit in the field of pharmacy. So the quality is not a one-day affair. It's a process. So the process should happen clearly. And there are many methods by which you have to bring out the process properly. The structure may be available, outcome expectation may be there, but the process, if it fails, then there is a problem of how effective, good human resource will be available for our nation building. Quality assurance. One is quality, and how well we assure that the product coming out of the institution has got the highest value, both in the educational value as well as in the professional value as well as in ethical value. So if you just look into the terminology, quality assurance in pharmacy education is an integral management tool concerned with prevention of problems in quality education through planned and systematic activities, which ensures that the professionals produced by an institution are dependable and to be taken with confidence. This is what needed. We cannot just say, I have come out with students or professional manpower with quality, but the dependability, how well, how often, batch by batch. So if you just look into the industrial production of a particular medication or drug, then they assure each and every drug, lakhs and lakhs of drugs are produced. Each and every unit, if you see, even the trials, if you can take any model, we cannot leave out a single medicine without the quality. And that has to be applied to even to our professional practice of educating and bringing the professionals in the educational institution. And that should be dependable when they go out from the institution. Each and every one, there must be an interconnect between themselves, between the institution, between their stakeholders, and how often the majority of them, I should not say it's majority of them, each and every one, how they do the ethical practice to the satisfaction of our profession. So that is the internal methodology by which we have to work on, and every institution have to work on, and they must have their own method, availability, their own system, what they govern. All those things should be put into practice, and they should try to work. It is an integral management tool again, with prevention of problems in quality education. So institutions should identify what are the possible problems what they have, whether the input is proper, whether you have a system for bringing the good quality students into it, or if the students have got some kind of lacunae, and what methodologies they can follow to make sure that they are prepared well before they are placed into the proper stream of education. There is an internal standard methodology have to be developed, which includes a documented quality system that sets out the organization structure, responsibilities, procedure, process, and resource to implement quality management and assessment of adequacy of quality education system. And every aspect has to have an audit. As I told you, even right from the intake, right from the way the institutional the structure is developed, it's right from the input of the faculty members. It's also the right thing of financial operations, the financial positioning of the institution, the vision, and exactly what the system owners, or I can say the managing system, how it works to fulfilling these areas. So right from that, everything has to be looked into it. So only then it is possible for you to, only if you audit all those smaller criterion, it's very difficult for you to bring out the quality product. And it is not the quality, it is the quality assured product. That is, once these systems are available, the final outcome should have a quality, and any stakeholder should be in a position to take them with confidence. And for any system where they are prepared with a lot of information properly gathered, these products, so-called the student empowered, education empowered students, educationally empowered professionals, they walk in and solidly they should start their career, which should be useful for them as well as for the nation at large. With the evolving role of pharmacists globally, pharmacy education profession are undergoing tremendous changes. As I was highlighting with few slides in the beginning, I said pharma is not one sector now. These are multifaceted units or profession. Pharma is around the entire cold chain management, right from the research to their preliminary animal testing, then all the phase trials, then the product formation and bulk drug industry. And you have industries which comes out with the formulations, different kind of formulation, then distribution, export, and again managing the product, excipients, then transportation. And you have got the system where to manage the whole process by the professionals who work where the quality is not compromised, taken to the community, taken to the hospital pharmacy. From there, we educate the professionals, work in the community as well as in the healthcare system, educating them, monitoring, auditing, distributing the patients, that is dispensing to the patient, monitoring the drug, how it is getting administered, and outcome. So imagine each and everything has got its own vision and monitoring system. And if you just look into it, each and every area, the expertise should be properly trained, and there must be a check and audit. There must be a proper evaluation system, proper teaching learning process, proper expectation of these students to, when they come out, what should be the outcome, and what are the other areas where they can excel. So it is very, very complex issue because pharmacy is not uni-focused program. And pharmacy as such, now only we have a system where, especially for our country, at present, Council has taken a lot of measures to implement the new syllabus where we have got some kind of elective subjects and where the students can be, according to their interests, according to their expertise, they will be in a position to work on those areas so that we'll have students or the human resource available for that sector. And we have a program, PharmD program and pharmacy practice and master's level program where the students can go or directed toward the hospital and related areas where their clinical knowledge level can be used. So this kind of changes we may have to expect in this coming decade. So every small sector will be identified and the preparedness of the students will be one of the priority for the council as well as for the educational institutions. In India, pharmacy education is being imparted in diverse settings, backgrounds. There is significant variation in the outcome of various institutions. You have to excel not only in one area, but again, you have to identify your potential. Where exactly your institution has to focus, which particular area, your field you are going to focus and come out with that kind of expertise to cater these areas. International Pharmaceutical Federation has established the International Forum for Quality Assurance in Pharmacy Education. And again, we may have to have a lot of feedback from them. International forums recognize the need for global capacity and global assurance. It is not only for we produce or we come out, educate people, educate students, that manpower is not for our own country. We have to make sure that the criterions which are required by the global standard, global organizations have to be fulfilled. And that should be the way we march forward. And accreditation is one process. I won't say this is the only process. This is one of the process which gives you a strength in identify your area of weakness, area of strength, and how you can monitor. And this will be slightly will give you an edge over identifying and training the human resource which are required by the field. And the committees, they recommend quality assurance policy of the institution, organizational structure, relationship, the curriculum, the existing, and how well you can make the design of the curriculum which is suitable for the student who undergo this pharmacy education program, teaching and learning methods which you can adopt. Because today, if you see in COVID conditions, many of the institutions are trying to pop up, and they are trying to, in fact, whenever there is a need, they try to find out different methodologies to make sure that the students are well trained. If you just start looking into many of the organizations, many of the institutions are exploring the technology, how this will be useful in training the students beyond what they could have done in the regular mode. And the assessment, student assessment, and how it is cohesive with the kind of training which they have undertaken. The faculty and staff who are available for the institution to train them, resources, allocation, utilization, and facilities provided by the institution to educate the whole process. These are all the things which are very, very essential. So if you just look into the block diagram which I have given here, the institutions, the three important areas where they have to concentrate is, if you just look the students, unless and otherwise the student intake is not proper, then the whole process may not be to the level of expectation. The staff, again, well qualified, well trained, ethically balanced, emotionally balanced, and who has got the training in all kind of mode of teaching, and the way they train them is all important. The kind of soft skills they have, because unless and otherwise the staff is equipped with all those things, this transfer will never happen. And the institution's physical and financial resources, how well they are resourced, and these are all very well seen by auditing, looking into the passion towards the education for providing good quality products at the outcome area. And the pharma curriculum, in fact, many of the deemed universities and state universities can have their own curriculum. But again, with a lot of direction from the councils is available now. Council is trying to make one syllabus, one curriculum for the entire country so that monitoring becomes easy and the products come out of these institutions or more of in a balanced manner throughout our country, teaching learning process. This is under the control of the institution, where they try to make, based on the requirement of that region, that particular institution, the resources, they can make a lot of changes here for the benefit of student community, management, governance, R&D activity, because a lot of essential components are inculcated or implemented into this, because industry collaborations are coming up. More and more research is going to happen in the industry in the near future. They are going to look into the expertise in the field, especially from the education institutions, because the education institutions have got potential of manpower, and industries will try to take up a lot of collaborative research, which was happening in majority of the countries. And we are now isolated, not more than 10% of the institutions are pulled up into this, but we are going to have more and more institutions will be tied up with the industries or hospitals or clinical research organizations to come out with R&D type of activity, curriculum and extracurricular activities, hospital community, farm community training, how effectively industrial training, because hands-on training is very important for the students to learn. Whatever the way you try to inculcate in the classroom teaching may not be sufficient. So the learning process, the teaching process, everything has to be strengthened. And the learning outcomes and research outcomes and other outputs have to be evaluated. Based on that, the outcome, the students or the professionals who come out will be evaluated. And even in the hospitals, more or less similar kind of thing happens. But at present, the council is very particular to have a tie-up our own hospital to have around 300 beds, which should be in the field of, in the specialty of medicine and pediatrics and others. We need a training beds for training the PharmD professionals, the post-baccalaureate professionals, and the same kind of teaching learning process, because there is a kind of variation. It may take place when you try to take PharmD education and pharma education, which is focusing on industry and analytical professional production. Here again, the kind of training it requires according to the need of the clinical settings. Again, we have the student who are really interested. The student selection plays a very important role, and staff and physical resources, especially in the for hospital area where we need around 1,200 square feet area. And this is very essential for the students to be there to look into the functioning of clinical pharmacy activity in the hospital. Then the learning outcome, research outputs, other reports have to be evaluated strongly in the educational, in the hospital settings. So if you just look into the individual sectors, how quality is maintained or quality assurance is made, whether it's a standalone or an institution offers courses, different courses, or a constituent of a deemed university should be an autonomous unit within the structure of an institution or university. The head of the college institution must have responsibilities, power to secure adequate financial, physical, faculty, library, technology, administrative resources to meet the needs. So they look into the, whenever you look into the criterion for the accreditation process, both the agencies which take up, that will be an NAC accreditation or any of the accreditation done by the national agencies or international agencies. They try to look into all these things to what level the institutional head has got a role to play. And if it is an affiliated university or a constitutional deemed university, and whether it's a practice setup or industrial pharmacy setup, how well these institutions support the university, and whether they are able to do the academic research and other scholarly activities. The college institution must be organized and staffed to facilitate accomplishment of its vision, missions, and the administration should have defined authority and responsibilities. There is a dilemma to look into the curriculum. How much subject should be in a curriculum? How much professional experience should be in the curriculum? How many faculty are required for each? What type of practice experience should be included? How are they evaluated? Both the educators as well as the professionals who are getting educated. And it must be a balanced scientific knowledge with practical training. This is what, even in most of the educational reforms, they talk about how well the institution has got a balance of scientific knowledge. Scientific knowledge comes with the resources, along with the professionals who work, who impart the training to the student community or the scholars who work in the research field, and how it is getting evaluated. So these are all the questions which have to be answered when you just say it's a curriculum development. And every 5 years or 10 years once, we've been doing it, but now that the gap has to be minimized. We may have to come out with changes in the university level or in the council level every 4 to 5 years. Once we may have to change the whole system to make sure that it takes up the required skill and the developments which are happening in the global level. Whether we are prepared for that, and that is again very important to develop a good system of quality assurance for the student community. The curriculum should be aimed to provide a thorough foundation in pharmaceutical, biomedical, behavioral, administration sciences, and just to prepare the graduates, postgraduates with competency needed. Today, this is a buzzword. The competency development is very essential. It is not the syllabus which is important. It is how well the syllabus is converted into the competencies. Each and every unit which they study, whether it has been broken, fragmented into what level of competency they develop when they start looking into the units of study, what they do it in different areas and different settings. The curriculum should essentially include the topics listed in the curriculum as prescribed or suggested and updated by the Pharmacy Council of India. The core subjects, appropriate breadth and depth of the content and sequencing. Many times if the sequencing is not proper, then there will be a hindrance or challenge for the student community to learn. For example, if if they don't study medicinal chemistry along with pharmacology, and there is a gap of 1 year, then the cohesive learning, continuous learning may not happen. The interaction or integration of subjects will not happen. So it's very essential. That's one reason why the council thought continuous learning process is possible by keeping it in the semester system, so that it's possible for you to fragment more and more number of subjects, and sequencing is possible. Otherwise, they have to wait for 1 year to complete the whole process. So to make sure that the kind of sequencing and continuity to be maintained, the new system has come into play. For the last 3-4 years, we have been experiencing the semester system, where the value-added subjects as well as practicals and student-centric way of propagating the subject, especially in the elective selection. Elective subject selection is possible today. And each and every subject is having again their own grading system. All these things are possible by shifting over to, there will be a lot of debate on that. But again, we look into the positive side of the system which is existing today. Adaptation time to time, keep the pace with the developments. It becomes comparatively much easier to make sure that the developments can be incorporated. There must be some kind of leverage is given in the curriculum design, where more competency based changes can be brought by the institution. So institution can look into the syllabi, and that syllabus can be oriented towards the requirement in that particular area, or where the institution has got their strength. They have got the experts available with the institution. So they can kindly modify, taking the electives into play, and a lot of advisory boards are available which has been incorporated into the system itself. Accordingly, they may be in a position to work on. There are 2-3 important components have been incorporated: electives, project, industrial training, practice schools. Practice school, again, this is a model which they are trying to implement, and try to see that more and more changes can be brought within the particular limitations what they have. Adaptation time to time, keep pace with the developments which are happening. No need to wait for a longer period to change the system or the syllabi by the institution. The curriculum should be delivered in a manner, because if you look into the teaching and learning method, in a manner conducive to the educational outcomes, that the college or institution should produce graduate or postgraduate with knowledge, skills, attributes necessary to enter the field of pharmacy. So this has to be very important. Make sure that every institution should try to identify their strength, weakness, and how to minimize their weakness and improve their teaching skills or the training skills. If you just look into the conversational versus non-teaching methods, there's a lot of difference. We can see the newer novel teaching methods have got emphasis on the clarity of the concepts. Continuous feedback can be obtained. It should be enjoyable for both the learner and teacher. Develop writing and oral communication skills. Students' active participation is possible by the new methodology, and the passive recipient student has to be changed. Then only it is possible for us to make sure that the student learning skill is improved. And we may have to increase the regular and periodic assessment. You should not wait for 1 year, 2 or 3 sessionals, and rest of the time to minimize the wastage of time for the student. It has to be designed. Evaluation system should be able to assess knowledge, practical skills, attitude, and values. Faculty should prepare learning resource material, and that should be encouraged by the educational institution as well as by the policymakers. Teaching and learning methods should be aimed at own learning and lifelong learning. It should be part of the whole curriculum. And there's a lot of efforts have been made to work as a teacher. So number of training process he has to undergo, number of books he has to write, number of patents he has to create, number of research articles he has to write, number of research publications he has to do it. Every small thing should be accounted. So then only it is possible for us to make sure that the teacher, that is the trainer, improves his knowledge level or skill level, and then that can be transferred to the student for better learning. Emphasis on understanding, acquisition of basic principles, and skills of discipline rather than detailed memorization. There should be a changeover from memorizing methodology to analytical and decision making and problem solving skill. So that has to be developed, right? Because many times we get information from the stakeholders that the student who comes out of certain institutions, they're not able to, because they have to train them again. So it is, if you start taking the quality assurance steps in the institution level, the duration of training, additional training which are given by the stakeholders like industry or hospital or the agencies which recruit them, they no need to spend more time for training because students are capable of handling things at their end. So some of the teaching methodologies which includes simulation-based training, case-based learning, problem-based learning, flipped classroom teaching model, because each and every smaller units have to be strengthened and highlighted. And with the scope of this lecture, I thought I'll just highlight these are all the possible methodology by which the teaching learning can be more effective. Virtual patient technology-based education, educational game-based platforms can be created so that the skill of a student can be utilized. So whichever area which you try to develop, laboratories, practice laboratories, some methodologies are adopted, but more can be evolved or invented for the better learning of the student to make him a perfect professional. And integrating learning process, because many times we lack this particular integration in our educational system. Because whenever they try to work on a particular subject, it is all these years passing with high degree score, high level of score is sufficient for an individual. But after completing that particular semester or the years of training, the integration of the subjects are not properly done. In many countries, they try to do it an examination or registration examination where the subjects which they have learned, the competencies they have developed during the process of 4 to 5 years of education in the collegiate or institutional level, the integration of various subjects what they have studied in a problem solving manner. So if you just start looking into the disease state of epilepsy, then all the areas which have been highlighted here, like poisoning, ADR management, formulation development, kinetic study, and the biochemical values, and the formulations available, marketed drugs available, and regulatory approvals required, pharmacotherapeutics for epilepsy, pathogenesis, and the schedule of drugs which are for the epilepsy drug and how well they are maintained. So the entire field has to be looked into one particular component, focusing on one particular component. Even the chemical moiety, how newer drugs have been invented for this particular disease. So all these things comes under one capsule. And if this integration takes place, and the student will be in a position to know better about a particular disease or a particular drug. This is one area where we have to strengthen, and this will be a model, a competency development model can be adopted by institutions. Today also institutions can develop a model of this kind, not to wait for the syllabus changes or the curriculum changes which will happen from the council level or from the university level. The institutions can have these kind of changes with their educational department, pharma educational departments. Periodically, they can start functioning on this in developing each and every small modules can be done. And that will help the teachers or the students to learn better, teachers to train them better. And in this particular way, the institution as a whole will assure that the quality of product which comes out will be an assured product. And this information can be shared between the oral instructions, video lectures, teleconferences, televised programs in selected topics, program correspondence between students and universities across the nation or even across the globe, and disruptive newsletters, distributing the newsletters, and digital technology, especially we are using it during the pandemic, which we are trying to make sure that this an ideal platform where they start learning even courses which are available, free courses are available today in many platforms. Computational programs are available beyond the scope of the institution. Now online programs are available, and how well the right set of programs can be learned and a right set of programs can be developed by the institutional teaching community. And as I was telling you, the teachers and other members working in the institution should be encouraged to come out with newsletters or books or their research articles to be patented, and they can think beyond the set of umbrella what they have usually they carry. And the competency-based student performance assessment, because whenever you start developing a program, the assessment also plays a very important role. So they have to be assessed on the cognitive skill, it has to be assessed on analytical skill, application skill, etc. So the knowledge of medication, knowledge of practice, knowledge of formulation, and the teamwork has to be assessed, communication skill has to be assessed, problem solving and decision making skill has to be assessed, personal skills, professional skills, patient-centered care, and the educator-centered care, information management, the research, innovation, entrepreneurship. Because today, entrepreneurship, and we have a lot of units which are functioning as incubation cells available in the institutions, and they are coming out or preparing the entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs in the institution who can take up the lead. And I'm sure a lot of the teamwork, or especially the entrepreneur development programs, are being conducted by the national agencies, and institutions can also look beyond their regular scope of conducting classes and training them. Professionalism has been inculcated, attitude and values and ethical principles. All these things, when you start working on, when you start teaching them, when you are training them, and it's quite interesting to know that if we can develop models to assess, a meaningful model should give you the assessment properly. Rather than the kind of evaluation system existing has to be modified, and the examiners or the so-called evaluators should know exactly, because that becomes another important skill of an evaluator. Because each and everything, every small drop counts for the quality assurance of a member who is coming out. So unless otherwise, education system may be good, but evaluators, how they perceive or how they get the information from the learner, if that is not proper, then slowly it will decrease the interest of the person who is learning. So adequate amount of evaluation skill has to be incorporated both in the learner as well as in the teacher. One of such model is OSCE, which already is happening now. Structured clinical examination, objects of this kind of structured clinical examination, objective structured clinical examinations or practical examinations, where the student, right from the beginning, he is trained, where maintaining a student logbook, skill-based assessment, oral examination, portfolios, critical reasoning papers, rating scales, student projects. So it's a kind of cumulative evaluation, cumulative methodology by which they can be assessed. If assessment process is not strong, the learner's skill will decline. So very important to make sure that the assessment is proper, and the in-house assessment models have to be developed, and that should be strengthened. This is once again an important area where we can strengthen the teaching, learning, and the quality of education can be improved. So this is another model which I thought I'll just share with you. Suppose we want to know the drug information, collecting information, evaluation has to be done. Very clearly, you should know about the objective and methodology by which they start working on it, the evaluation criteria, and outcome. So each and everything has to be looked into it as one unit. And if you just want to, the objective should be very clear, because the student or the learner who wants to know what exactly the drug information, how to gather the information, what are the primary sources, how well they can modify the system, and what are the different steps to identify. So each and everything, if they start working on it, whom they are going to give this particular information, whether it's going to be a patient or it's going to be a person working in industry, working in a health sector as a physician or a health nurses or whom you are going to target on the information. And if you can start working on it, and if the evaluation pattern, if it is also very clear about it, then the outcome will be meaningful, and the student would have learned, or the system will make them to get trained in that particular area. So this is for the patient counseling skills to improve the medication adherence, and what are the evaluation pattern, and how the methodology has to be done, and what is the expected outcome of the patient counseling. And if you just, this is what I said, it's again, I'm taking part of practice models evaluation. And it's very important for us to know how well the system has to be designed. And if we can have this designing system proper in place, then the evaluation plays a very key role to make sure that the students or the learner get the benefit of the entire process of learning in a system which governs the quality of an individual. Again, this is another model which is for therapeutic drug monitoring, how evaluation and outcome plays an important role, the methodology and objective. Once you know about the objective of it, which particular drug has to be worked, whether you require an individual drug therapy or not, the patient compliance have to be looked into it. What is the dose for determination, to whether to avoid, how to avoid the clinical toxicity. So these are all some of the objective of this particular therapeutic drug monitoring, where the methodology has to be like sample collection, analytical procedures, reporting and interpretation, and evaluation is handling of equipment, skill of interpretation of the values which they get from the biochemistry laboratories, and existing documented evidence. They have to look into it. Then they'll get the knowledge on dosing and handling potent drugs, and expertise in optimization of drug therapy. So this will be an outcome. So this way, if they are trained, and if you can have a check on each and every area, then it's possible for you to make sure that the person has completely learned about the TDM component of an education which is focused on practice setup. So we do have the process of simulation of cases now. Now we have computational models, and there's a lot of softwares available. And I'm sure the pre-professional practice should involve or include simulation cases, training to develop critical thinking. Projects have to be taken up in undergraduate and postgraduate level. About the project should be a relevant project, which should be useful for the industry or hospital. So this identification and collaborative projects have to be taken up with the industry as well as for the hospital. The relevant problems, because unless otherwise it has got the outcome has got an impact on either in the industry immediately or with the patient, then the project may not be useful. Unless otherwise you select a project, because selection of a project plays a very important role. And the training, because every institution may not have a full set of industry or hospital in their surrounding, but they can have the training part of it, where we need preceptors in the hospital and industrial experts who can also work as a teaching member to educate the student what is the expectation of industry and what kind of projects have been done in industry and whether that kind of relevance can be made in the institution level. A lot of government agencies are coming forward. There's a lot of industrial, institutional, government partnerships are available. And I think those things have to be strengthened. Unless that is strengthened, it's very difficult for the institution to develop each and every component in the institution level. And there are training available. In fact, we had a couple of meetings with the government organization where they give around 2 to 3 months training. And internship training is possible in the real industrial or hospital setting. And they try to give. And counselors making move for make sure that the government organization, they come and they work with you. And such kind of opportunities have to be taken up to strengthen. Those strategies have to be inculcated with the institution. So that will be a best move for industry institutional interaction with the government mediated trainings are possible. The institution should come forward through the universities, and I'm sure that is going to be another path-breaking move by the Pharmacy Council of India to make sure that such kind of trainings are happening before they complete the program of undergraduate or postgraduate programs in pharmacy especially. And as I was telling you, teaching learning process, the outcome is very important. The problem-based learning is one as a buzzword. Introducing computer-aided learning in relevant programs should improve reasoning, simulate self-directed search for solutions, orient the students for lifelong learning. Assessment methodologies must be coherent with learning process. So these are some of the important criterion for developing good system in the institution level so that the quality of the institution, the quality education, the quality assurance is made. So if you just look into the one particular thing, which I thought I'll just inform you, the drugs have been produced, formulations have been produced, and again, it is taken up for the patient use. The actual effect, there is a gap between the proven efficacy versus actual effectiveness. For each and every module, every formulation, every drug molecule which comes out from the industry, there are many reasons why there is a gap between the proven efficiency versus actual effectiveness. This gap, similar to this gap, there is an education versus the quality assurance. So here, if you look into that, why there is a gap, it is because of improper administration. Everything is fine. The formulation is fine. The drug has been given. But again, if it is improperly administered, then there is a problem of we cannot reach the proven efficiency. Drug selection, dosage, non-adherence, interactions, adverse drug events. All these factors play an important role in making the bridge, making the gap between the actual effectiveness and proven efficiency. Similarly, the system is good. The education values are good. But again, the institution and the process of teaching, learning, and the way they look into the division of the management, if it is not proper, then there is the student outcome may not be effective as it is expected. So competencies to be developed, it should be when you start looking into the problem and looking into the educational system at large, we lack the conceptual competence and it has to be improved, and the knowledge should be evidence-based, and the critical thinking skills have to be developed, decision-making abilities have to be improved, and problem-solving skill has to be improved. Because these are the things which comes with the real quality practice. It is not memorizing something and going out of the institution. It is memorizing. They should have adequate base in knowing information and how well it is to be blended in a manner by which you can have the analytical methodologies. The practical skills have to be developed and the critical evaluation has to be done. And all these things require a proper evaluation system in place. Then only it is possible to have the competencies to be developed and it has to be evaluated. And the student assessment, if you just look into it, I've been telling you this right from the beginning. Balance between summative and formative evaluation is important. Test method should be able to test factual knowledge, objectivity, ability to analyze, synthesis of information, and problem solving. Mechanism to ensure validity, reliability, and fairness of examination system, security of academic records, system of providing feedback to students, because unless otherwise they know where they have gone wrong and where they can rectify, where they can modify, what level of knowledge input has to be taken up. So this feedback mechanism, if it is not strong, it is only in papers, then it will go only into the shelves. It will be kept in the shelves. But that may not be useful for the students. So as evaluation system is important, the feedback mechanism is also important. How to rectify the mistakes, what the students have done, or the teaching learning process have got a lacunae. System to observe performance, attitude, and professional behavior throughout the course. It is not the content of the material which they learn. It is how well they perform and what is the attitude towards the subject or the learning curve, students, and how well we just try to improve that attitude of a student and the professional behavior. Then only it is possible for us to make sure that the product comes out of the institution has got the quality assured product. And faculty and staff, it's again I have already informed that they must continuously they should involve in development and research and other scholarly activities, service and practice. They should have an effective continuing professional development program like what today we are having it. This information what they have is, it is not merely, many times we feel that the subject completion is the end of the day, a particular program. But again, if you just fragment the whole thing, and every teacher can have the responsibility of more than the subject completion or the portion completion or examination conduction. So it is the overall performance of the faculty and staff must be reviewed periodically, and where the faculty has to strengthen themselves, which are the areas which they have to strengthen to improve the teaching learning process. Unless otherwise it is addressed to them, and you need a peer committee for that, a committee which addresses all these things, and this feedback also should go to them, and there must be some kind of open-mindedness among the faculty should receive, because we are here to make sure that the changes which we bring will be beneficial for the student community at large, and also the professionals work in the field. So it is the open-mindedness of the faculty is very important, and they should accept the changes what is required in this era. They cannot be just sufficiently well-versed with the one which was happening 1 or 2 decades before, and now the advancement is taking place on a faster, rapid speed. So we may have to adopt ourselves to make sure that the changes are taken immediately, and we jump into that particular shoe and start working sincerely to make sure that the changes are taken or they're transferred to the student community also. Qualification and number as prescribed in education regulations. The requirement is very essential. The institution has to look into that. Sound policies for recruitment, promotions, and retention. Workload should be such as enough time should be available for the faculty to the coursework before start of a class. Continuing professional development programs have to be compulsory for the faculty. The training component should have some kind of value for them to undergo this kind of CPD programs. Evaluation of research and other scholarly activities should be encouraged. Participation in professional and other scholarly meetings. Presentation of scholarly work. Other endeavors that promote professionalism or profession of pharmacy. So these are the things which the faculty has to look into it, because this indirectly affects your student community and the quality assurance of the product which comes out of the institution. So the teachers also, the professionals work as they are the mediator between the student and the industry. They are the mediating persons for the hospital and the community pharmacy and the student. So how good your teacher, how effective your teacher, and how passionate your teacher, and they inculcate so quickly, and they follow you. You become a model. You become a great teacher. right? It's not an ordinary person. So you become a moral teacher, you become a great teacher, unless otherwise you follow all these things. Acquiring and dissemination of knowledge through scholarship, adequate time, practice faculty to develop experimental site, evaluation of faculty and staff may include self-assessment inputs from peers, supervisors, and students. So these things, as I told you, teachers have got a higher responsibility to self-mold them, and by way of molding themselves, they try to mold the students. And resources allocation and utilization of funds in planned manner, they have to do it. Allocated funds should be operated in accordance with the accepted business practices. An uncommitted account of reserve to address unexpected issues. Resources obtained from extramural resources should be free of restriction. So it should be available for the faculty to make sure those funds are available for their research and developmental activity, and where more and more students should be involved, taken into the kind of research projects which they take up. The college institution should have adequate and appropriate facilities to achieve this mission of goals. Physical facility must meet the legal standards and to be safe, well maintained, and adequately equipped. Facilities as prescribed by the PCI is the minimum requirement, and that should not be the criteria. They have to make sure that that should be the platform, and more development has to be taken up by the institution to see that the institution provides all kind of facilities available for the student community to learn in a better manner. Desirable, comfortable, and safe environment should be provided for the teaching learning practice. Regulation and the prevention of cruelty of animals act must be complied. Selection of educational resources. Technology should be based on appropriateness of the curriculum. Library and educational resources should be available. Training programs for effective use of library and educational resources, if needed, it should be provided. Wherever it is essential, that should be available, and the faculty and the resource members working, the planning commission members working in the institution should advise the managements and the organizational heads to make sure that where their development lacks or where they are highly motivated, and they should monitor, audit the system in an appropriate manner. And we also suggest the council to have an quality assurance cell where beyond the approval process, like other agencies, because now directly Pharmacy Council of India is looking into the whole process of affiliation, approval and all process. And there must be a proper auditing system for the council to make sure that more than the approval process, because they know well about the development which is happening in the pharma front. So they are the right people to make sure that more of auditing system has to be taken up by the Board of Quality Assurance and Pharmacy Education. And those institutions which satisfy accreditation criteria will be issued accreditation certificates. At present, we have 2-3 agencies which gives you, but I think council can also think of, there was a proposal previously, and I'm sure in future there must be a kind of system will be developed, and they will try to monitor the whole process if possible. So accreditation of a program is another important tool for quality assurance. It strives towards attain excellence, because we may always feel that we are at the best, but unless an agency comes and looks into your strength and weakness, opportunities of the program, it's very difficult for us to realize, because there's a lot of time constraint, and to improve the quality and effectiveness of the program, it is very important to make sure that the institutions are accredited. And we also try to make sure that the institution should have some kind of short-term process. So short-term courses have to be developed, and many deemed universities are having this kind of courses available with them. But again, the state universities should encourage the institutions to come out with programs where the skilled professionals working over there can also work in kind of programs which can be developed, which can be used for training. Since they have the resources, others can also get trained in these modules in the particular institution. and it should be designed in such a way that the emerging areas of pharmaceutical sciences have to be taken into consideration, and which increases continuing learning process, and socio-economic need-based education can be given, and competency comparatively it will be cost effective if these institutions involve in designing courses. 2 to 3 months courses or 6 months courses can be developed based on the strength of the institution. One model is introducing workshops on basic pharmacology, effective patient consultation, taking history, preparedness of soap notes, interpretation of lab values. In depth, they should try to do it. And we have disorder managements, diabetic, peptic ulcer disease, anemia, pneumonia, and all those things. Again, industry-based short-term courses, pharmacovigilance program, formulation development programs, and such programs can also be done for a short-time program of around 3 months to 6 months. And there are very other agencies apart from the institution. There's a lot of programs available, but I'm sure the pharmaceutical pharmacy institutions also take up the modules, and because we have the resources available, the education, the educators and teachers are available, and they should try to work on these kind of modules, which will be helpful for the fellow professionals working in other institutions. This also encourages the teaching and the student exchange programs, because once you start developing such programs, it is possible for you to make sure that the expertise is shared, which involve exchange programs which will encourage individual independence, improve the decision-making skill, communication skills, stimulates them to compare and contrast with the pharmacy practice of education. Exchange of experience and ideas provides excellent catalyst for education improvement. It produces more dynamic, enthusiastic, active professionals. And you must make sure that the institution as such, with the resources available, there must be considered as a center for excellence. So which will attract, coordinate basic research, coordinate with industry, hospital institution interaction, should sponsor and coordinate research on emerging fields, help the professionals in patenting their innovative projects. Patent cells have to be developed in institutions, carry out continuing pharmacy education programs for professionals and educators, participate in planning short-term courses and modules. So each and every professional start looking beyond the capacity of the existing educational need, what they have in their institution, by looking into these areas, which will improve their capability, as well as once you start developing these areas in your institution, and that becomes an additional tool for this will be another strategy to strengthen the quality of your own student or the structure of your institution. And we do have some of the other new programs like pharmacogenomics, and these are all some of the areas where we have to think now, because more of genetic profiles and risk management strategies, individual genetic makeups play a role in drug responsiveness, and all these things are going to be it is going to be future areas of concern. And this also plays a very important role for the safety of the drug which is getting developed. So we have to think beyond developing a pharmacovigilance sector in the institution, material vigilance sector in the institution, and pharmacogenomics kind of platforms have to be readily made available for the students. And one area which the drug and food and drug cosmetics actors, now the instruments apparatus have been classified under drug, and I'm sure that this area is another one which is just developing, and we all have the material vigilance centers available, and more institutions should come forward to develop their institution. If it is attached with the hospital, how well the material vigilance is done, and again they can also work in material development in the industries. So the components have to be inculcated in the syllabus curriculum, and they have to be trained. The students have to be trained. That's another area which is very essential for our student community to make sure that the expertise is used. And if you just look into the medical devices, important role diagnosis. The role is in diagnosis, prevention, and treatment of different diseases. Simple, low cost bandage to tongue refresher, high cost and complex devices like MRI machines. So it's very essential for them to get expertise. This is a slow process by which this is an additional thing which we thought I should share with you all. And wherever it is available, students should be exposed to such conditions to make sure that the issue related to some adverse events or even working of these instruments and how well it is done, because now they all come under the category of drugs. So, list of medical devices. These are some of the medical devices which have come into class of drug, and all these things, since it has come into the drugs, naturally later, maybe this decade, you will see a lot of professionals work in this area are going to be pharma faculty, pharma students. The material vigilance is another buzzword which we start listening, and there will be identification, collection, reporting, analysis of all these materials which are useful in the hospitals where these drugs, these materials are getting used for the patient. Post-marketing surveillance initiated in many countries already, still not as developed, robust as that of medicine, but still slowly this particular concept of material vigilance is pumping in. And India, where these materials are getting used, these materials are getting developed, and professionals we need for monitoring and developing and giving information regarding these, along with the biomedical engineers. Now it's under biomedical engineering group which is handling this equipment, but I'm sure since it has become drug and more opportunities will pour in for pharma graduates, so expertise in the institution should look into it. That is, the teachers have to look into collecting information and becoming experts in the area of material vigilance. So these are some of the interactions between drug and administration kit, and many of them are not looking into this beyond their the formulation skill or hospital clinical pharmacy skill. But these are the emerging areas where pharma graduates can look into it, and the expertise have to be. These are the areas where the professionals have to look into it, from the normal level of education to the other side of education, where the developing areas which requires the professional management. So finally, if we just start looking into the vision to quality assurance in pharma education, modify the existing curriculum with respect to recent developments. Some of the developments I highlighted: facilitate computer-aided learning, reorient, especially for example, drug development area. Drug development, if we just start looking into the drug development, we can just work on computer-aided drug learning, especially a lot of softwares are available, and we may have to be an expert on handling those softwares, reorient teaching, learning, and evaluation process, introduce need-based postgraduate courses. At present, we have around 11 to 12 approved courses, and unless otherwise, we start working into the areas where is the need, and we can just suggest these programs which can be inbuilt or it can be approved by the higher authorities or statutory bodies. And then if we start looking into implement those programs in our institutions, then it becomes very essential for the student community to know about new programs, because in many fields they are developing many new courses. If you just look into the engineering department, there was only computer engineering was there. Today around 12 to 14 programs have been developed based on the need. Similarly, fragmented type of programs, focused programs have to be developed in the case of pharmacy, and I'm sure those areas have to be strengthened by the faculty members who really look into the development of quality products for those industries or hospitals or community where they cater the need of the society. Develop module and evaluation techniques for conducting short-term courses, strengthen industry hospital-based internship, mediate institutions, industry, hospital interactions, encourage more faculty development programs like this. What they have done, I'm sure there is some kind of information is shared between the professionals and the listeners, and this few points can be taken up, especially for example, when you say start developing faculty development program, there is a pharmacy practice module available with our curriculum. So the individual professionals can start looking into the BPharm curriculum, where pharmacy faculty, pharmacy practice components can be highlighted, or they can develop more and more, which is relevant programs can be developed in that area so that the student community is benefited because we train them in those areas. Accreditation of programs as an institution by national or global agency. And these are some of the future direction for strengthening the pharmacy education. You have a artificial intelligence and pharmacy informatics, personalized medicine, because this is going to be an order, personalized medicine because we are moving towards personalized medicine because every drug is not same for each and every individual. So within another 5 to 10 years, you start looking into these subjects, this particular medication available for individuals. And where again, once you start looking into this, if you are an expert over here and your need becomes very important because you will be an expert and suggestive person for personalized medicine, gene therapy, clinical pharmacy specialist, community pharmacy, exposure and public health programs you can work, industrial education and regulatory updates, research on new pharmacy practice models and patient outcomes, artificial intelligence again. So these are some of the developing areas where the institutional level can, in institution, the teaching learning process and the organization setup can have resources, finance management and financial resources, and the professionals who are capable of molding the students in these areas can be given priority so that they will have an interest towards developing programs, short-term programs in these areas, and I'm sure that will help the student community to provide. So whenever a particular personalized medicine department, they look forward to recruit someone from the institution if someone has undergone this particular program, a short-time program, and they will be given priority. Artificial intelligence is a very big, important buzzword which is happening now. And I'm sure in addition to the industry, hospital industry also plays a very important role in developing or applying this artificial intelligence to their needs. So I'm sure those who are good in computational and artificial intelligence in pharmacy, informatics will be needed. So you need professionals who are capable of working in this area. So this is again another area where the teachers and the professionals can look into developing modules, getting trained themselves, and train the students. So training the trainers model is again another area where the Pharmacy Council of India is looking into it. Whoever has got an expertise in this area, if we start developing a module and send a proposal to the council, I'm sure the Pharmacy Council of India will be in a position to accept such proposals to give weightage for the institutions which can conduct programs and develop more and more professionals in this area. So this becomes a strategy for your institution to strengthen the pharmacy education at that particular level. So when the institutions grow slowly, I'm sure all the institutions will take up this model, and overall we'll see good development taking place in the professional front. And we have to look into the, when you finally look into a quality pharmacy education, we have locally, we have to find out what is required, whether there socially accountability is there, whether we are connected globally, and quality has to be assured. Education is completed by the pharmacists to achieve competencies, because now majority of the curriculum is based on competency development. So previously the units are developed, but now each and every unit, every smaller segment, the council is trying to provide. Most probably within a couple of months, you will start looking into it. Within a year or so, you will have each and every syllabus. Even the institution can find out, they can develop competencies. Competency-based curriculum has to be designed by the even institutions. So council also try to give some kind of a model for competency development in institutional level from the syllabus what is governed by them. And we have to look into the need, local, regional, national, international level of need, where you are focusing yourself. Provided by services provided by the pharmacists to meet the needs, and demonstrated by the pharmacists to provide services. And if you can look into all this requirement, and if you can develop such competency-based models, and if you can strengthen the teaching learning process, And if you can accredit your program by the organization, and if the organization has got a vision and mission to strengthen the development by resources, and if they can have an interaction between the industry or hospital for future research, to meet the future research goals, identify exactly the programs which are essential in the next couple of decades well in advance and march towards that. And if you can do that, it is possible for you to make sure that, and if you can develop those resources available, those professionals available, and I'm sure the quality assurance is made by the institution towards the student community who comes out of the institution. And that is very important. And you have to always should know quality is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, intelligent direction, and skillful execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives by William A. Forster. Unless you and I try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will never grow. And if you just start writing something, and if it is not planned properly, if it is not executed, if it is not trained due to say that your own time restrictions, and you have to work towards that, it is not only beneficial for you, it is beneficial for the entire organization. It is beneficial for the student community which work under you, and at large the field, the stakeholders feel, let it be industry, let it be regulatory side, or even global marketing, or export, or the drug export, and finding out the regulatory aspects of other countries, and how well we can prepare ourselves for our own country people by providing cost-effective quality product, the community, strengthening the community pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, and also the clinical pharmacy. I'm sure this quality consciousness, the quality of our education, because that is the backbone, quality assurance plays an additional stamp on it. And I'm sure this particular seminar sector will make sure that we realize that pharmacist is not an individual player. We link with many members of the healthcare team towards industry. I was just telling about material vigilance. In industries produce materials which are useful for human use. Then we have hospital sector, community sector, hospital, and regulatory sector. So we are not alone. The bridges between the healthcare providers and the individuals, we make sure that the quality assurance, the quality assured product will give hand in hand, or they work along with the other members to make sure that our health system is strengthened, our production system is strengthened, our place in the global level is also visualized properly. And as we have been doing it, and I'm sure the institutions play a very important role in strengthening their strategy for providing quality assured product from their end. So hopefully we have given I've given you some kind of information. What are the areas where you can start thinking about developing yourself into a well-developed pharma professional? You can develop good quality products, think globally, and with that thinking, you act locally, or vice versa. You start identifying your problems locally, and I'm sure from the local area how we can project it towards the global level. So think globally and act locally. So thank you for patient listening, and I'm sure this will be useful for you all in making your institution to grow further in a higher level with quality, by bringing out quality assured product. So thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. In quality assurance, what are the strategies to strengthen the pharmacy education, and what are the importance of quality assurance in the pharmaceutical education? This is now the time for question and answer question session. Any participants who is having questions, you can ask to Ravi sir.
Any doubts? Any questions? Actually, sir, it was a very wonderful session, and you are not feeling well also. Still, you managed to try to find some time for us. We are really grateful to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Anyone else?
If
has
anything
to
is there,
ask?
you can also post to me. If anything is there, you can post also.
Oh, sure, sir.
So,
I'll post it, sir.
I will
Can you-
definitely. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
please, please. Yeah. Thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity, because I'm happy to share my views to all of you. Thank you for giving me this uh, honor of addressing you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Actually, it's our honor, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, fine.
Oh.